It's time for Talking Pictures Trivia. A quick friendly reminder, electrons actually flow from the negative terminal of a battery.
Welcome to Talking Pictures Trivia, the podcast in which a group of geographically challenged friends explore movies through trivia as an excuse to keep their friendships alive. I'm one of these friends and today's host, Nick, and with me, as always, is...
Tom.
Additionally, joining us as guests this week are...
Kevin.
And KJ.
Thanks for joining us. You may remember Kevin from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and our Talking Trivia series. KJ may also sound familiar as he's been on a majority of our episodes. Kevin and KJ still conveniently like movies. For those joining us for the first time, we start off each episode with a movie quiz, as these pivotal questions will determine who earns today's trivia crown. In round 1, each question is worth 1 point, and in round 2, each question is worth 2 points. Then, once the fierce competition is over, we follow up with our famous movie rant where anything goes. Tom, tell us about today's movie.
Today we're going back to 2015 in Iceland. Björk releases her 8th album, Vulnukria. The volcano Hulahrán finally stopped spewing into the sky, and Iceland stopped following daylight savings. During all this, Grímur Hákonarsson's movie Rams was released in theaters alongside Z for Zachariah, Chasing Robert Parker, and The Shamer's Daughter. Rams takes place in Iceland in a remote valley where the main industry is herding sheep. And we zoom in on a farm lived in by brothers Gumi and Kitty. They have lived there since they were children, but they're no longer speaking. They haven't spoken for 40 years. And what has happened is a disease has come into the farm, scrapie, which is a neurological disease that has no cure, and it's easily spread. And so the veterinary services of Iceland have decided to basically get rid of all the sheep and all the rams. And it is the center of this valley's life, of their culture, of their pride, and all of it is taken away. They're all killed. Gumi, however, hides some sheep and a ram underneath his house, in the cellar beneath his house. And he spends his time there trying to make sure no one learns about it and kind of isolating himself more and more. Meanwhile, Kitty, his brother, we see from afar, is slowly dissolving into what looks to be alcoholism. He's not able to live with the loss. And the movie follows that conflict. Nick, if you had only one word to describe Rams, what would it be?
Bah! KJ?
Bah! Kevin?
Bah.
And my word would be bah.
As soon as I saw that, Nick, I had to hop on. It was too good not to.
And that concludes today's episode.
Yeah, we're all a little punchy. Yeah.
Ending on a high note. It's time for question 1.
How do the brothers communicate with one another?
Locked in.
Locked in.
All right, KJ, you locked in last. You go first.
They give notes to Somi the dog, and Somi seems to know how to bring their note to the other brother.
All right, Kevin, we're up next.
I was going to say the dog. I didn't quite remember the name Somi till KJ brought it up. But yeah, same exact answer as KJ. If you want to subtract out the dog's name, I think that's probably fair.
Okay. And Nick, what do you have?
Yes, notes, handwritten notes that were then given to the dog, and the dog would bring it to the other person.
Points for everyone.
All right.
We're going to be doing that joke a lot today, folks, so strap in. So I brought this question up just to introduce our main characters and our initial conflict. The kind of problem that predates the start of the film. And so what do we think of that? What do we think of this conflict between the brothers?
I think it's funny that they live on the same property. It's not like they're even on opposite ends of the valley, but they have to live in a very small area on a regular basis. And I can't imagine not speaking to someone for like a week, let alone 40 years. And even when they go into town to have the ram competition or whatever it is, one opens the gate and the other guy just flies through it. Like it's just very close quarters to be isolating yourself.
Yeah, and it feels like a story as old as time, right? But we don't know what the conflict is, right? We never learn what the actual conflict is. Gumi, the main guy, I think is right to be afraid of his brother, right? His brother is surprisingly violent and offensive. I don't even know the right word to describe that shotgun.
Yeah, the brother is Kitty is definitely more unstable, and seems like he always has been, based upon that will situation in which Gumi is basically responsible for everything.
I was going to say, we do find out the conflict. The conflict was
What is the conflict?
Gumi is the one who inherited all the property.
I feel like the conflict predates that, though. Like, I feel like, everyone kind of knew that Kitty was sort of like the black sheep of the family, if you will. and I think Gumi sort of always was expected to take over the farm, but I think you don't really know why.
Well, okay, maybe I was reading between the lines, but they were alluding to the fact that he has been like this before, but not for a long time. So I think he was in his youth with his other demons battling alcoholism, and that's probably why he was out of favor with the father. Now, again, I'm writing a little bit in there, but there was evidence saying that he was troubled and that Gumi was the one that they could count on. And I think that's where that conflict came from.
Yeah, that's how I read it too. I don't know if that's where the specific break, why they don't talk to each other anymore, came from. I don't know if we learned that, and I think that's kind of purposeful, right? Because as you said, KJ, it has this sort of ageless quality, right? These are people who don't speak anymore, and the fact that the source of the conflict has been lost indicates the kind of depth of their involvement in this valley and in this place. There are conflicts here between people that are so old no one can remember how they started.
How old do you guys think that these guys are? Because I was watching the movie, I thought maybe like mid-60s, something like that. And for them to have not talked for 40 years, you're talking about a possibly a youthful indiscretion that has
early 20s. That's Kevin, I had the same assumption that this thing goes back to that period.
Yeah, it goes back they say it goes back 40 years. Oh yeah, he's in his 60s now. So when this movie was made, he was 60, the main star. We're not even going to try to say that name, but yeah, so oh God, he looks a lot older than that. So yeah, if it's going back 40 years, it would be in their early 20s.
I get the impression that Kitty is the older brother. So I think he was expecting to inherit the farm and was particularly peeved that he didn't, because he felt like it was his right as the older brother.
I got that vibe too. I don't know if they spelled that out for us, but maybe because it was just his stature. I don't know. Like he was this bigger, burlier guy.
Balder.
But he's also more childlike. I thought Gumi was the older one, because Kitty does everything he does is kind of almost like little boyish, right? Even when he's doing something noble or good, he does it with a sort of enthusiasm that's very kind of childlike. And his violent episodes are childlike too. They're kind of without thought of responsibility, without thought of consequence, rather.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I had assumed Gumi was the older one because of how immature Kitty did seem while doing these things. Even when he's got the shotgun and everything, it's not too different than a Saturday morning cartoon, right? You can almost hear the whoa, 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 as the window's breaking. And
as the youngest brother, I want to make sure we don't confuse young with immature. They are two separate things. It's possible for older people to be much much more immature than the younger person.
Agreed.
Yeah, but I always get the impression he's younger for those reasons, right? If they're
That's like
not,
Kevin saying like that's not a good prejudice to have, Tom.
no, it's not. It's not a good prejudice. Yeah, I realize that. But you don't have it. I don't have anything else to go on, right?
Right.
You know
Just
what I
our
mean?
prejudice.
That's so you have to work on. Yeah. You have to work on what they give you.
Like
which
I
is,
thought,
you know,
I thought that Kitty seemed like especially resentful because he felt like he deserved the farm. Like I got that impression that he felt like he deserved it, and given his behavior, clearly it doesn't. So what else would he possibly have to go on that would make him think he deserves it, other than his age?
Yeah. Well, I will say this about Kitty. He, as far as we could tell, does, when he has the sheeps and the rams, use the farm responsibly. Right. We get the impression that he is an award-winning ram. The farm seems to be functional when he's doing it. I get the impression that what holds him together is the farm, and that he was maybe not as proficient as or as neat as Gumi, but that he did that job well.
Yeah, agreed. He won the contest, right? He didn't
Yeah.
just beat Gumi; he beat every other ram farmer in the valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and you also get the impression too from later, and once the discovery of the sheep is revealed to Kitty, that uh, that this is something sacred, that his brother has managed to preserve something sacred. And you know, I get the impression this is not a man who, despite his obvious faults, uh, disrespect the sacred.
At the same time, when he says like, "Hey, this matters to me," Gumi was like, "Yeah, bullcrap, it does." I get the feeling that maybe I'm reading too far into it and creating a headcanon that doesn't exist, but I feel like that tells me that he screwed up something with the farm. He did something that maybe harmed the animals or harmed the farm or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe he cried wolf. It's time for question 2.
What is Gumi doing when the vet comes to tell him about the scraby?
Locked in.
I'm going to say locked in just because I don't want to go first.
Good strategy.
There's not that many sets in this movie, so he's either in the house or he's with the Rams. I imagine he's with the Rams. I'm picturing somebody whittling wood, but I don't know if that was Gumi. All right, locked in.
All right, KJ, what do you have?
Is he cleaning the Rams, cleaning their horns, cleaning the Rams? That's what I got.
Kevin, what do you have?
I remember him taking a bath and somebody showing up while he was taking a bath. I'm not sure if this is the right scene, but I'm going to say taking a bath.
Okay. Nick, what do you have?
I locked in with cutting his toenails with a paper scissor.
Yes.
There it is.
Okay. And Nick gets the point. Very good.
I got concerned there with the bath one, though. I was like, oh, wait, am I in the wrong scene? But I was pretty sure that was it.
And I brought this up because, well, a few things. I will tie together the introduction of the tragedy, right? Which this is the point where we learn the thing is going to shift to crap, but also the myriad shots of the everyday that kind of occupy Gumi's life. There's a lot of just shots of him doing the things of living, not just herding goats and rams, but cooking or cleaning or what have you. And I just wanted to talk about those two things, the tragedy and the everyday shots, and how they're working together, or if you want to pick one out and talk about it.
It just seems like such a lonely existence, and he's completely content with it. And the ram and the sheep are his children, and he really cares about them. But from an outside perspective, very modest accommodations. I'm sure it looks like that now, and it probably looked like that 40 years ago when their feud started. So it's just I'll say it's not the lifestyle for me, but it seems to be suiting him fine.
Yeah, I get the distinct impression that, it's a lonely existence that he chooses, because the one guy comes over and he gives him some food and says like, hey, how about some coffee or how about a drink or whatever? And he's just like, nope. So
I agree with your sentiment, but I think he did that because he was afraid they were going to find out about the sheep.
Well, sure.
I do agree with your sentiment.
But I think it was not that far out of character for him. I think like the guy was like, maybe this is a little off, but yeah, that's kind of Gumi,
Right.
He wasn't suspicious. Yeah, you're right.
It's a bleak movie, right? Everything bleak. The plot, the colors, the characters, the cadence of the dialogue. I don't speak Icelandic. I don't know what I don't know what they were saying, but the way that flowed, the facial expressions, the way the camera held on things, it just seemed like the cameraman and the editor were tired, as they're putting this movie together, and that everyday life. Those shots, I think, added to that bleakness, right? There wasn't anything exciting. It was all very mellow. It was all very flat, and it was beautiful in that way.
Mm-hmm. It's a tragic vision, and it's a tragic vision not just because it's tragic what happens. Our main character dies probably, but it's also
does he?
He might. I kind of read it that he did, but. He ain't doing too well at the end. We could say that definitively.
Yes, they're in dire straits.
Yeah. But it is the death of a way of life. It's the death of a tradition and a culture. Right. And so the bleakness of the everyday is, I think, kind of extra bleak, not only because there's this tragic thing that's going on and this threat of tragedy, but it's also kind of already happened. And so you're seeing these people live their everyday normal existence, which is no longer going to be possible for much longer, right? As kind of simple and, commonplace as like cutting your toenails is and going out to the barn and all that stuff. Like, this is not going to happen much longer after this.
You see that with the one family who decides to take the money and run because they said we weren't really doing too well before this, and we have to wait how many years in order to try all over again. So
yeah,
there's probably more of that than what was just explored in the movie, if this was a real setting. All
right, at the end of round one, who's in the lead? Oh my God, it's Nick with 2 points. And right behind him, I can't do a sheep. And right behind him are the Kevins with a point apiece. We will have a lovely word from our wonderful sponsor.
KJ here from Talking Pictures Trivia, and I'd like to tell you about another of my favorite podcasts, Potato Spudcast. In Potato Spudcast, the crew explores different underground vegetables to get to the root of these delectables. Here's a quick sample. And how do you guys count your potatoes? How do you count your potatoes? Well, there's only one way to count potatoes. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4. Hey, but what if you have more than 4 potatoes? What do you do if there's more than 4? Well, I've never had more than 4 potatoes. So how many potatoes can you possibly have? I mean, how many potatoes are there? 4 potatoes should be plenty for anybody.
And we're back. This goes out to both our guests. If you could watch Rams with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? Kevin, how about you start us up?
I just feel like I have to stick with the Iceland theme and go with Leif Erikson. I feel like he would have to be, he would have to be.
He would be so freaked out.
He wouldn't survive that.
He would be relatable, He'd be like, yeah, you got to kill your sheep sometimes.
Or somebody else's, depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or everybody.
They're all sheep.
I bet he can't do a bah noise either.
KJ, how about you?
The obvious answer is with the sheep, right? We want to gather all the sheep and watch it with the sheep, but I'm not going with that. I thought a great way to watch this movie would be if you were on a winter trip, like a ski trip or just some kind of winter trip where you're in a cabin, you were outside all day in the snow and the sun, having a great day, but you're cold. You come back to the cabin, you're with all your friends, and you're in an Airbnb and they got a bunch of DVDs or something. You're like, oh, which one should we watch? Blast from the Past again? And you see Rams. You don't know what it is. You put it in. So I'd love to watch this with a bunch of friends. We didn't know what it was. We're kind of tired from the day, kind of sick of each other. And now we're watching this bleak, completely flat movie with a nice warm drink of some kind, and all just completely surprised and amazed at the DVD that came off the shelf. I think that would be my ideal watching experience.
I like that you think the default answer would be to watch it with all the sheep. No one else thinks that would be the default answer, KJ. Am I wrong here?
So, Tom, you have a dog. My dog doesn't watch TV. Does your dog watch TV? Can sheep see TV? What's the sheep's refresh rate on their eye?
I don't know. Yeah.
Can they consume it?
I've never even thought to care.
Yeah, I can't, because I'm with you. My dog can't watch television. I don't know if he can't. He doesn't. He doesn't.
Nope. Yep.
Even if there's a dog jumping on the television,
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
my dog will watch dogs. And that's
really?
About all
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't get that to happen.
Yeah. And she must know where the speakers are too, because if a dog's barking but it's coming from the TV, it doesn't phase her one bit. I don't know how they do that either. So I don't know if the sheep would get excited every time the sheep got on the screen. I don't.
Probably be pretty upset about the homicidal maniac.
Well, hopefully they don't understand the
all
movie.
their friends.
Scrappy, like they're all nervous about.
This sounds like an interesting B-side experiment.
It's time for question 3.
What is the name of the last ram?
Locked
in.
Oh, guest privilege.
Locked in.
Okay. KJ, what do you got?
So when it came up on the screen, I said, write this down because somebody's going to ask this. And I didn't write it down. So I'm going to go with Somi, the dog, and hope that I just got confused and Somi was the sheep's name and not the dog's name. Somi.
Okay. Nick, what do you have?
Okay. I think it's something like Gerper or Garper. Garper.
Garper.
No, something like that.
Gonna try a few more times? Yeah.
It's like Garper.
Garper. Okay. And Kevin, what do you have?
It definitely starts with a GRU. I think it's like GRUPUR or something like that, like Gripper. Yeah. I think Nick is pretty on it, to be honest.
All right, so no points for anyone. It's
What?
Gaspar.
It's Garper.
It's
What
not
is it?
Gerper. It's Gaspar.
Who the hell's Gripper?
Gaspar. I don't know who Gerper
There's an
is.
S in there? No, maybe I just forgot the S.
Gaspar. It's Gaspar. Yeah. So close.
I was
Kind of.
actually.
Yeah. So no score change there. So I want to talk about the relationship between them, the sheep, and the rams, namely Gumi and the rams, the sheep, or that town, that valley's relationship with these animals. Especially considering that Gaspar is the last sheep of his kind, last ram of his kind, excuse me.
So the movie starts and it's kind of light and kind of funny and you're starting to get into it. And then the scene where he has to slaughter all the rams, it was a tough watch, right? Like he's extremely sad. You start to now get it like, oh, no, these aren't just a commodity. These are the people's way of life. They are extremely connected to these animals.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, will there be another question regarding the amount of animals?
No. So you can tell us the bizarrely Italian subtitle if you'd like.
Oh, I don't know about the bizarrely Italian subtitle. I was just going to say he killed 147 sheep.
Oh, okay. The subtitle of this is rams, and in Italian it's 2 brothers and 8 sheep. And I have no idea why it's in Italian. So but anyway,
did you see this on a poster? Where'd you see this?
No, in the movie, on the first frame that introduces the title, it has in Italian. Now, I don't know if it's just our super legal edition has that on there, but it says in Italian, 2 brothers and 8 sheep.
Maybe there's 8 at the end.
There's 8 at the end, yeah.
Yeah. So
But I
focus
didn't know
on
why it was in Italian.
the
Yeah.
third act. Huh.
I was just saying, on a more relevant note, how many sheep he had to actually go through.
Yeah. Yeah, and that scene, to get back to KJ's point, that scene is heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of sheep. That's why 147, and he was able to save 8. But that was all smokescreen just to save the 8.
Did he actually only kill 139?
Oh, I don't know. No, because they had the bodies for 147.
Yeah,
They removed them.
that's what I was thinking too. So it's
Yeah.
probably actually 155, right? That
Yes.
he has, and he just
That was the
reports.
other subtitle, and it was in a different language than Italian. That said, by the way, it would have been 155 minus 147 equals 8 sheep left.
Mhm.
Anyone know 155 in Hindi? Yeah, I feel like that would be appropriate.
Yeah, the sheep are interesting too, because with this family line, what we learn in the contest is that this is a particularly important family, right? We get the lineage of the sheep. Do you guys remember that? It was the sheep's parents, the ram's parents, the winning ram. We learn their parents. It's like Loki and Sturlar from Bolstad, from the Bolstad Valley.
Well, I was going to say Bolstad, which they kept said these are the last of the Bolstads.
Yeah. So
of the breed, I guess.
Yeah. So these things have a lineage. So they're kind of a little bit of the royalty of the rams, because I believe those rams are brothers. The rams of Gumi and Kitty are, if not brothers, they're related. They're part
But
of.
don't forget, they both place in the competition. So
Yeah.
only one non-Bolstad ram even made the cut to be on the dais.
Yeah, but they have a lineage. They're sort of kind of more of the royalty, because if you think like a great tragic vision, it's usually about royalty who dies, right? And that's not this. These are commoners. But who's the person with the lineage in it? It's not a person at all. It's these sheep, and so it's this kind of weird sense of, the tragic has come for this kind of like older traditional thing. And what is it? It's these, it's the thing with the lineage, the thing with the history is the animals themselves.
Well, yeah, I think the lineage of the animals mirrors the lineage of the brother, the actual human brothers too, right? I think that's the comparison that you're drawing throughout the movie, is you're thinking about these rams who I think you're right. I think they are brothers, and I think they come from the same lineage, and they're threatened in the same way that Gumi and Kitty are. And I think they meet the same uncertain but not very good, likely fate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this lineage, and these people are all kind of wiped out at the same time. But it is, I thought that it was also really, really sweet, the relationship he had with them, the care he kind of has for them. It makes the movie really, really human, ironically enough.
I kind of thought it was funny how, like as a person with a dog, it kind of reminded me of how I would treat my dog, but there is actually a dog there, and it seems kind of different. Like, yeah, the dog might live in the house and everything, but I think the sheep and the rams are really the pet of choice.
That's a work dog too. That's why, because it's used for herding the sheep, not for just having as enjoyment as a pet.
Right.
Yeah, and anybody could have a dog, right? It's only certain people can raise these sheep, right, and partake in that. Like the life is sheep, life is a ram. It's that kind of thing. It's really lovely. It's a really kind of lovely, quick peek into this little culture, as real as it is, right? Who knows how realistic this is, but it still peeks into a culture in the way that you can imagine an outsider would peek into a culture, or how you could document what a culture is like in one of these kind of remote and small places.
Okay, I have something to say. The ram's name was Garper.
It was Garper. I have Gaspar in
You
every footnote.
I'm
in
looking
every
in
subtitles.
on IMDb. I'm looking at the full cast and crew,
It
and there
includes
is
the
a
sheep,
Garper the
the
ram.
full cast.
It was played by the ram named Vidor Fra Haldenstadidir.
Really? I have, yeah. I had
I need to throw a flag on this play.
okay. We could do that. Who had you're the only one who had it, right?
I think Kevin was close to something like that.
I mean, we could give you the points if you're.
It's the saddest way you've ever gotten points, Nick.
I also want to make sure it's right, and that IMDb is not wrong.
Wait, so what exactly was the question again?
What was the name of the ram?
The name of the ram.
The last ram, right? The one that they're
Is his name Garper?
So I'm rewatching it right now, and he's fumbling around in the snow, yelling stuff. Garpur.
There's no
it's
S.
Garper.
Garpur.
Paur.
Oh, okay. I had Gaspar for.
So I'd like to point out the only other episode we went back to the videotape to check on something, I'm pretty sure was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think this is a Kevin Scanlon trope where we have to confirm our facts.
Right, let me see here.
I'll take it. I'll be the stickler for accuracy.
Well, I was just like rereading the subtitles in my brain, and I couldn't figure out exactly how to say it. But
I was struck by how French Gaspar sounded, and I don't remember reading a name that sounded French to me.
All right, yeah, well, we could hand out some more points. All right, so then we'll have points for you guys. So we'll have 4 points for Nick now total, and 3 points for Kevin.
It's time for question 4.
What medical aid do the brothers give to one another?
Locked in.
I'll lock in.
Locked in.
Okay. So we had Nick lock in last. So Nick, what do you have?
To battle the hypothermia, they use their body heat warmth to heat each other up within the snow cave cavern.
Okay. Kevin, what do you have?
So for sure, that's what Kitty does for Gumi. Gumi also gets Kitty into a hot bathtub, again, to try to expel hypothermia, I think, when he's found in a gutter and so forth.
Wait, did you want a 2-part answer? I picked the incident where they helped each other out.
It's fine so far. KJ, what do you have?
Yeah, the same. The double hypothermia. One with their body, although I thought Gumi was already dead. And then the other with the bathtub. So hypothermia. There was also the funny bit with the bulldozer. I don't know what mechanical device that is.
That's where I was going to go with if it was multiple things, but I was the one where they helped each other.
It's I had the bathtub the bathtub and also the igloo, let's say. But Nick, you get points because it's what the answer was, body heat or giving heat to help with hypothermia. That was the point. And they do that in the bathtub, and then later that is mirrored in Kitty doing it for Gumi in the igloo. It's echoed, that moment is echoed. They both don't deliver each other via tractor to the emergency room.
I love that scene. I love that. That was awesome. Probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Him going down the highway with him and he just like drops him off and
goes
home.
Certainly the moment of levity this movie needed, I think. And the people like passing by in their cars being like, I wonder what's in there.
Yeah. So I brought this question up to talk about, never mind levity, to talk about the ending. what did we think of that ending? And I was very surprised by it. I didn't see that coming, honestly.
Those are one of the endings that I'm like, no, don't end here. Don't end here. I need a little bit more. And then they end. And it doesn't ruin the movie because it was a very good movie. I really enjoyed the whole experience. But those ones, they just get you. You need to have that answer.
I think I would have preferred a bit of closure there as well. I mean, not necessarily like I need to know where they are 5 years from now or whatever, but like, I don't know. I guess I would have liked to have some hint about whether Gumi was already dead or not. I think he probably was, but I'd like to kind of, I don't know, get some clue there, I think.
His chest was moving, though. His chest was moving, at least at one point of that whole experience.
I certainly didn't notice that, but I'll take your word for it. That's cool. I guess that's it. That's a hint.
Do the videotape.
Yeah, his eyes are fluttering too, but I think I mean, he was all night in freezing cold. It doesn't look promising for Mr. Gumi.
The alternate ending, they brought one of the sheep in and they used that to warm themselves up, kind of like a Luke Han.
Yeah.
I thought it smelled bad on the outside.
Yeah.
I like the ending a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end a movie, especially a movie so bleak, right? You get the brothers finally
Even bleaker. Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, it is, right? It's really bleak. The brothers finally reconcile at the last possible moment, and that's the end.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's also a sort of the tragic vision, or part of tragedy, right? In a tragedy, it's the good is burned out mostly, but the evil is definitely wiped out. And it's kind of like the good has to be burnt out with the evil. And then like a little good is fostered and moves on. You see them like Hamlet, right? Like Fortinbras comes at the end after everybody's dead, and he's like, all right, we're going to honor these people, and then we're going to set up a kind of more stable Denmark than the one that created this. And so there's a good that can kind of trail on. And it seems here like the evil that's burned out is the animosity between the brothers. And like you're saying, KJ, it's the last possible moment. But that's the tragic vision, right? The tragic vision is at the last possible moment, the evil is destroyed.
Yeah, just like in Hamlet. Yep.
Well done on that one. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I've been trying to work it in all episode.
I haven't noticed at all. You know what? I'm the one who started this mess, so I can't say anything.
Yeah. I think the ambiguity of whether he's dead or not matters less than the definitive healing of the relationship. Right? I think that's what matters. And even if they live, right? Even if Gumi lives, he's going to live for what? Or he's going to go back to what? You know what I mean? There's sort of even if he lives, there's a sort of death and life there. And so it seems as if death has come for these people in one form or another.
Well, I also would have liked a hint as to if the sheep and the ram were going to make it. I mean, I feel like probably not, in the same way that the brothers are probably not. But I feel like, there's hope for these brothers, and in a larger way, hope for this town if the ram survives. But if it doesn't, yeah, I kind of feel like, yeah, they're going to be pretty miserable for pretty much till the end.
But don't forget, if the ram and the sheep do survive, they could invalidate everyone else slaughtering all their sheep if they still have Scrapey. So based on that, and you guys did a pretty good discussion earlier on this being symbolic to what's happening to this family, these two brothers, and also all these the sheep, then I'm actually inclined to jump to the side of they didn't make it because the times are moving on without them. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. We want those sheep to live, but really they could just create the same problems when the new herd arrives.
And it's not going to be the same, right? They can't bring the sheep back. They can never go back to the town with the sheep, right? The wild will swallow them up, even if it doesn't kill the sheep, even if they could live there. What they did, what these kind of sheep with this lineage and this history did, can't be done anymore. They're done. They're in the wild now. They're out of the farm.
It's more like the planet of the sheeps.
Yes. Yep.
Do you feel like it's everyone would be better off if the Rams didn't make it? And do you feel like the town or the brothers would be better off if they didn't make it?
No. I mean, I don't think the Rams would be better off if they didn't make it. And I don't think, obviously, the town would be better off if the brothers die. It's not.
Well, not if the brothers die per se, but if this way of life dies, I guess is more the point.
No, it's not. Nobody would be better off, right? It's just there's no villain, so it's not as if there's a person to benefit from this destruction. It's just fate. It's a fated, it's kind of man versus fate.
No, the villain would be Scrapey, right? Like,
yeah, which is
so like,
and those nasty veterinarians telling them what to do with their sheep.
But
I think
the town for sure would be better off if the Rams didn't make it, right? Because
from the
in 2 to 3 years, but they have to wait and clean up everything, and
if
it won't be the same because there'll be exterior sheep that were from off the island as well.
Yeah, you're still losing something. But if you're going to say, like, if the sheep make it, will people be better off or worse off in town? Yeah, I see what you're saying. It will delay the purchase of new sheep, right? And possibly cripple that culture further, if it isn't already completely.
I think the likelihood of raising sheep in this town suffers dramatically if the sheep do make it through that winter.
Oh yeah, they can't make it because they cannot have other sheep come here if those sheep are still alive.
Yeah, or being farmed, right? I mean, if the sheep just run into the wilderness and we never see
No, even if they're in the wilderness, they could somehow commingle. And I mean, they said, listen, you got to clean off every piece of wood, every piece of fencing, every single thing that they touch.
Yeah, there's still a risk having the sheep alive. Yeah, I'm not saying there isn't, but it's still, we're not making like a utilitarian calculus at the end of the movie. It's these people have lost everything that gives them meaning, right? That's the tragedy. Even if it's like, from a social perspective, it's important that we make sure that the virus can get into the population, and so these things need to be wiped out. It's still the end of a way of life.
I think it's an end of a culture, not necessarily a way of life. I think they will be able to get replacement sheep, but they won't be of the Icelandic heritage, the old ways. It may follow a wave of new farming, if you will, but the old ways have definitely died.
Yeah, I think that's a good edit there, Nick. That it's the end of a culture, right? And we see a lot of elements of this culture, what they value. I also loved, I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. That poem they were reading before they give out the sheep awards, before they give out the ram awards. They have like this long Icelandic poem that they all kind of read. It's clearly everybody knows it and they tip the glass to it. But all of those things are gone at the end of the movie, right? Especially as the people are leaving. If they're bankrupt, it doesn't matter if you get new sheep in there. It doesn't seem like a particularly great way to get wool, like a productive way to get wool anyway. But we get a lot of this culture and how these people live together, and that's kind of the it's almost like a tragedy of place as it is as much a tragedy of the kind of individual.
It's time for Movie Rent.
Yeah, do you guys think that it's not a tragedy? Like, that was my reading of this. Is it's a what you might call like a low mimetic tragedy. So it's a tragedy about like the common person, right? That's this term. It doesn't matter what the term is. It's a tragedy about the kind of common people, and it has a kind of a pretty distinct structure there. But I don't know, did people think it was different or of a different genre, of a different type of thing?
I think that there's this sort of notion at the end, for me anyway, of I'm not sure if it's a redemption tragedy or just a straight up tragedy. Right? It could go either way. Like, Okay, well, so yeah, Kitty kind of comes around, right? And maybe the brothers make up, sort of. But I don't. My personal feeling is I don't think Gomi is around for that. So I think it's. I think he's making up to somebody that's not there anymore, and that to me would be a much more tragic than they got to make up before they both died in the wilderness or whatever.
Yeah, that's just a matter of interpretation because I think he was on that last straw of life. So depending on how you read that, probably changes your opinion of that last scene. Because I think I'm on the other end of it, where they had that little bit of resolution before, and you guys are actually convincing me as we talk about this that it is before their demise. I wasn't really sure before this episode where I stood.
But I think either way, I don't think Gumi has any awareness of the fact that they've made up.
But well, the one thing is though, even before the igloo, Gumi goes to Kitty to protect the sheep. Now, when that happens, that to me is the point of redemption um is that he's able to go to Kitty to protect his children. Because initially, do you remember his response when Kitty tells him, "I know what you have in the cellar"? What Gumi first does?
Yeah, he thinks he goes to arm himself thinking
Yeah.
that Kitty's going to kill them.
Yeah, he grabs the gun and gets there, and he's in his chair so long he falls asleep. And when he wakes up, what does he see? He sees Kitty cleaning, right? Kitty's doing the job he's supposed to. So his response to learning about the sheep isn't that this is something that he could get revenge. It's let's clean this thing out. Let's clean it up. Let's act normal because there's some reason to act normal for. And I think that's the reconciliation. And I think Gumi reconciles when he goes to Kitty and says, "They're coming. You need to, can you help me?" I think that to me is the point where we start to see reconciliation as possible.
Directly connected to that, it's when they actually start talking to each other.
Mhm.
There are no other parts earlier in the film where they talk. Once they open that dialogue, boom, I think that's us seeing that some of that 40 years has just dissolved away.
Mhm. And so I was just like, I think that's what you were saying too, Nick, is that's the point where reconciliation can happen, that 40 years sort of dissolves and he's able to loan him a tractor to help him do the cleaning. They have shared purpose. And I think Kitty admires Gumi's willingness or ability or luck, whatever it is, to preserve the sheep. You know what I mean? That's where you see, I think, the most human Kitty. The first time we see Kitty really as a something of loveliness in him is when he's like, those are the last sheep of the valley. Of course this is important, of course this matters.
Yeah, he sobers up, right? He
Yeah.
looks like a completely different person.
Mhm. Yeah.
It gives him a reason to live.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. These things are reason, culture, the kind of traditions we're all in are, for a lot of us, are reasons to live. You take that away from people and they just, they dissolve. And even the dissolving of the family, right? The fact that they had no family together anymore for 40 years, Kitty was able to get through that. But once you lose the sheep, everything goes.
I got one more joke if you guys will spare me. It doesn't have anything to do with a sheep.
I love when you start by explaining that you have
Well, I need to, because it's going to be a quick one. I don't want people to miss it. Alternate title: Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
No.
too soon. Too soon. I know it was 2015.
Or Gertrude, or
Oh my gosh.
Gasper.
Yeah, we're calling him
Garper.
Gasper.
He's now a friendly ghost.
I'd like to congratulate myself in the most humble way possible for winning this episode. I don't take these wins lightly.
Yay! All right, Nick.
Woohoo.
Yay.
Yay. Wow.
You did it.
Praise me, please.
Hmm.
You can find more of our content wherever you listen to podcasts, on our YouTube channel, Twitter @Talking Studios, and our website, talkingpicturestrivia.com. We are extremely grateful to all those who subscribe, like, follow, and leave a review. Do you think you could make a career out of raising sheep? Why or why not? Let us know on Twitter, talkingpicturestrivia@gmail.com, or give us a call at 201-467-8679. Thanks again, Kevin and KJ, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me back, guys. I might be back for a little bit here. We'll see how this goes.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun. Appreciate it.
You can find me on Twitter at ThomasLehman15, and the B-sides are finally back. We have a few out. I'll be doing one for this episode, so tune into Talking Pictures Trivia B-side.
And you can find me on Twitter at KJ10001000.
I can also be found on Twitter at The Nicknamed. Join us next time for Talking Trivia, where we take a break from looking at just one movie and do actual movie trivia from a variety of films. Stay tuned for a sample trivia question.
Ding, 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 ding.
All of the questions in round 2 will pertain to 2004's Disney The Incredibles. Edna E. Mode is a supersuit specialist. What is the one thing she will not do? What is the... I didn't finish the question. There's more to the question.
That's not fair. What was the one thing she will not do? How am I supposed to know?
It definitely sounds like the end of a question.
There's 2 parts to this question.
Fine. Well, we'll throw it up to chance. Go.
Let's just keep going.
Keep going. I apologize.
Edna E. Mode is a supersuit specialist. What is the one thing she will not do? What is the one thing she will not include with the supersuit?
I feel like I have to be fair and let Pat buzz in first on that one.
Pat, I know you've been trying very hard here. What is it?
No, it's not fair because you're right. I already knew that it was not the end of the question.
Okay, Kevin, technically,
Kevin.
Pat did buzz in too early.
Wait, you knew it was the end of the question?
I knew it was the end of the question because I still buzzed in too early.
He interrupted
me.
Okay.
I still knew that it was not the question.
Gotcha. All right. No, I'll take it then. Yeah, sure. Capes. She won't do a cape.
Capes, darling. I don't do capes.
I actually remember that. Oh, I must have seen this movie.
I remember the scene.
The cape gets caught in it was a past person, right? And the cape got caught in a propeller.
The jet engine. I think. Things a jet engine. They keep getting caught in things.
Yeah.